Loser Squad is your god, your devil. The Supreme Reaper back at you with a new banger. What if Deku Pot was the Shadow Monarch? Now, for those who don't know, the Shadow Monarch is the title of the main character of Solo Leveling, a webtoon on an app called Tapitoon. Check it out, it is fucking amazing. And the way his ability works is his world is a game RPG. It's in the game genre of shonen anime, of manga, but it doesn't really count. It's getting an anime though, soon 2024. It's a game world. And his ability is known. He is a player of the system, like most MCs are. But his ability allows for him to essentially kill an NPC or kill a character and take their shadow and use it as a shadow soldier. It doesn't matter if it's a player or a beast, he can extract their shadow as long as they are not too powerful, and he can do it 3 times. 3 times it fails, he won't be able to extract their shadow. Yeah, that's the Shadow Monarch and how the abilities work. I don't need to explain Deku. If I have to, don't watch my channel. I'm joking. Please watch and subscribe and like, comment. But let's get into it. I'm sorry for not updating in a long time. I know it's been a year since I last uploaded, and I greatly apologize. Times have been tough for me personally. So, but let's get into it. As we open up to Japan, focusing on a young, a very bulky, blonde-haired man walking up to a massive tower, skyscraper, with a academy, with a regular plain old shirt on, a jacket with a book bag. Today's the day I finally get to figure out what rank I am. Although it's so confusing to me. What is? Now, what would be confusing to you, Toshinori? To an elderly man and a young woman would speak besides the All Might. As the two stood side by side behind the boy. I mean, how this all works. What if I get an E rank, even though I have such a powerful quirk, Master Shimura? Well, honestly, the calamity happened almost 20 years ago, back when I was a kid. And when it happened, but your quirk doesn't always define your rank. Yoshi. I mean, Toshi. Yeah, Toshi. She's right. You could get an E rank even though your quirk's powerful. I mean, look at me. I have an A rank, and I have a pretty powerful quirk. Your Master Shimura has an S rank. She's one of the very few S ranks in Japan. The strongest of the S ranks, actually. Don't flatter me, Torino. Come on, let's get you inside. Today's your evaluation day anyway. Can you just run it down with me one more time? Like, how? How does it work? Explain it to me. Alright. So, as you already know, almost 20 years ago, 30 years ago, a random portal appeared in the center of Japan. A red portal that nearly wiped out most of Japan and most of the world. As shortly after that happened, there was a portal in America. All their portals opened across the world. But our portal was the only red gate that opened, besides the one in America, China, and India. Those 3 portals, that back then was known as the Calamity. as it wiped out 10% of humanity. But when that calamity happened, people with quirks couldn't stop the beasts that emerged from these portals. But an event occurred that forever changed our world. The Awakening. Those with quirks suddenly gained new abilities, newfound strength, new powers. They are known to this day as hunters. That is the title given to those who awoken these powers. These hunters were enhanced to such a degree that they managed to clear the red gates that plagued the world, eventually sealing all of them. As time went on, more and more gates opened across the world, but they were all as dangerous. But some were as easy as killing a dog, killing a goblin. Others were as dangerous as killing a ginormous bear that could slice mountains in half. You couldn't predict what type of dungeon you were going in. But there were out of these very few that awoke, there were these small group of, there was this small government. In the government, they made an agreement that they would form an association and gather together these hunters. Heroes, villains, it didn't matter. Even those without quirks awoke and gained these new abilities. Until eventually, nearly 5 years after that event happened, 10 years after that, 5 years after that event happened, technology was derived that allowed humanity to gauge the power of the gates and themselves. The grading system was invented, going from E rank to S rank. And then 10 years after that, another 5 years, mono wavelength scanners were developed. And this allowed us to scan and gauge how dangerous gates were. And those inventions has helped humanity throughout the 30-year and throughout the years to come. To this day, we're still learning more and more about the portals, the gates, and hunters and by themselves, all the more. But of course, back when that technology was first discovered, there were only 4 S-rank hunters. And a single S-rank hunter was so powerful they could clear a B-rank gate by themselves. And as you know, one of those S-rank hunters was our greatest foe, and the first user of our quirk, One for All. It's been nearly 30 years since that event occurred. Currently in Japan, there are 10 S-rank hunters. Worldwide, there are only 40 S-rank hunters. There's 8 in Korea, 14 in America, 7 in India. There's 10 in Japan, 10 in America, 12 in America, 8 in Japan and Korea, 7 in India, and a good majority in China. Including myself, of course. A hunter's quirk is not a very valid way to gauge what rank they may get, because it's all about the mana that you gain from the system. As you know, 5 out of the 10 S-rank hunters in Japan used to be quirkless. None of them had quirks. And those 5 hunters are the 5 strongest in Japan. Stronger than the 5 hunters with quirks. Of course, it's very rare to find a quirkless person who awoke and became stronger than a person with a quirk. Come on. But for all you know, you could get an E rank, even though you have one for all. Or you could be the next S rank hunter. I guess you're right. Let's go in. Hey, Master Shimura. Yes, Toshi. How many how many gates have you cleared so by yourself, like A ranks? Well, I've cleared a total of 4 A ranks by myself. And a total of 12 A ranks with a group. Do you think I'll ever get to go on the Elder raid, the Leviathan raid? As Shimura would stop in her tracks, her face going cold and silent. I refuse to allow you to go on that raid, Toshinori. That raid is so dangerous that S-rank hunters fear that gate. Sorry, Master Shimura. Let's go. Let's go get you evaluated. Do not speak of that gate again. As they travel through the association HQ, as they'd arrive to a room where All Might would sign the papers and do the procedures before getting brought to a room. Please place your hand on this orb, the scientist would say. This orb will read your mana wavelengths and the amount of mana in your body. It will help us gauge what rank you are. As All Might would nod his head, putting his palm on the orb. One quick question. Do you have a quirk, young man? Yes. Alright then. The man would cross something off on his... What? Brain fart, my bad, hold on. Fuck! I remembered it, I forgot! On his little paperclip, on his little board thingy. Whatever. As he go to his room, beginning the test. As 10 minutes would pass, alarms would start ringing. Don't tell me. Shamira's face, Nana's face would light up, grinning. Oh, for the love of God. What? What does it say? What's going on? I can't believe it. Sir, you're an S rank. All Might's face would then freeze before lighting up in a big, massive grin. His signature All Might grin. I'm an S rank, yes! As he would jump, doing a little backflip out of excitement. As Shimura would bust down the door, running in, hugging All Might, picking his tall ass off the ground. Holy shit, I forget how strong you are. Holy shit, you did it, kid. You're fucking S rank, just like your master. Yep. All Might would be blushing, slightly embarrassed by his master's reaction, as she drops him. That makes you the official 11th S-rank hunter in the world. And Japan. Now then, what would you like us to do? Would you like us to disclose this information and keep it private? I'd like keep it private. For now, just keep it under the wraps. He's still young. He wouldn't be able to handle all that press and stuff. Alright, Mrs. Shimura. Come on. I'll treat you. I'll go get you a treat. As months would pass, as All Might would continue vigorously training, trying to improve day by day, gain more strength. Before we jump to a ruined landscape, to see Shimura bleeding, missing an arm, holding her wounded side, standing before a man on a pillar. You really tried your best, Shimura. And as per usual, you failed. Now then, do you have any last words to your pathetic pupil before I kill the both of you? Yeah. Get out of here, kid. Master, no! I'm an S-rank 2, I can help you! Torino, take him and get as far away as possible. As Grand Torino would come out of nowhere, tackling All Might, dragging him back. No, let go of me, you damn old man! As Shimura would reach her arm back, pointing at All Might. See you around, kid. You made me proud. As seconds later, an explosion the size of a country would erupt from the island. An energy beam piercing into the sky, splitting the heavens, shaking the ocean below. No! All Might would roar, tears swelling up in his eyes. As years would go by, decades, in fact, as we'd see a man flying throughout the air in a blue, white, red, and black costume. As he looked around, as a car drove beneath him. Jesus Christ, could you go any faster, you fat bastard? No, I'm not fat if you can't keep up with me, now am I? As All Might looked down to see David's shield in a car. As All Might landed directly in front of the car, landing inside of it. See, if you can move faster than a car, why don't you just go? David would say, looking at All Might. Well, then I'd be leaving you behind, and I don't do that to my friends. Ha ha. Feels great, doesn't it? As they drive, the wind flowing through All Might's golden hair. What does? Being a symbol. It's everything I've ever wanted. Everyone looks up to me. It's peaceful. I did the one thing my master would have always wanted me to do. I stayed true to our promise. Hey, David. Yeah, what do you want? Do you think I'll ever become a national hunter? I mean, think about it. Those guys, they're like on top of the world. Nobody can tell them what to do. They're free. They're basically gods. It would take continents, nations to defeat them. Well, it's kind of why they're called national hunters. I still believe my master could have been one. I thought you said she was a national hunter. The day she died, her ceremony was on that day. She was supposed to be given the title of national hunter, but she died before they could give it to her, so she was never considered a national hunter. Hell, national hunters are even stronger than I am. I doubt I could ever defeat one in a fight, and I'm an S rank. I'm considered the strongest of the S ranks in Japan anyway. And don't worry, Toshi. We'll find the bastard that killed your master and we'll get revenge on him. David said, placing his hand on All Might's shoulder as they drove. As he said this, we'd skip. Seeing All Might bring his fist in the air, smashing it down, bringing it on top the head of All for One. Actually, run that back. As we'd sit there, seeing All Might battling a man as he'd punch him in his face, launching him back. No, pause, hold on. Yes, as we'd see All Might bringing his fist down, wounded, as the man All for One would bring his arm up, punching All Might in his stomach with all his power, before his head would smash against the ground, as the explosion would send shockwaves through All Might's body as he pukes up blood gushing from his eyes, his nose, and his ears, and his mouth. As he stumbled backwards, managing to hold himself up. He looked down at the dying corpse of his greatest foe before flipping him off weakly. I did it. I finally avenged my master. As All Might falls to his knee, David would run up to him, placing his hands at his side. Hold on, let me heal you. Boy, am I glad to have an S-rank healer as my best friend. Aren't I? Shut up, you idiot. You keep talking, you're gonna lose more blood. I'll be fine. Trust me. As David began healing All Might, restoring his stomach from the wound he just suffered. As David put his palms together, bringing his pinky fingers in, folding them, and folding his thumbs in. As a green aura would begin to surge around All Might as all of his wounds healed, turning into scars. As he'd slowly stand up, being restored to his full strength, panting, barely managing to stand as his stamina was still low and his fatigue was at its highest. As All Might stood there, his hand in the air, victorious. As days later, we'd skip to a ceremony, as we'd see the governor of Japan, besides All Might. I hereby declare and deem All Might the title of National Hunter as of this day. Do you have any words, Sir All Might? Please, All Might. As All Might walked up to this pedestal, tears forming in his eyes out of joy as he wiped them. Honestly, I never thought I'd be here today, being granted the title of National Hunter. But I'm proud that I can finally say I will protect everyone so much, even if it costs me my life. I'm going to be a symbol that everyone can look up to, that everyone can love and respect. I will make it so you can just walk in the streets at night alone without fearing for your life. I promise to the world and everyone here today that I will not stop until every criminal has been put away and locked up. That is my promise, and I swear it on my title as National Hunter and the symbol of peace. I am here! As we'd see a green-haired woman in the crowd, writing all of this down. As we jump years into the future, witnessing the same jade-colored woman, green-haired jade, a woman walking through the street, leaving work. As she traveled to her home, sitting on the couch, with a man on the couch beside her, as she'd rest her legs on his lap, as she'd be panting. Oh, man. Today, at work, it was a busy day. Did you see me on the news today, honey? Man, they had me running all over the place. Yeah, sorry, darling. You're doing amazing. So I'm guessing the dungeon run was successful? Mm-hmm. That would make my 15th B. That's my 15th B rank gate. Finished in 2 months. That was actually our fastest time. Amazing. You know, I try. Plus, we're gonna have a little guy coming soon, so gotta step up my game. Today I'm going to the association headquarters. I'm gonna buy myself some new gear. They have this new S rank weapon available. 75 million, 2 billion gold to get that thing. I'm only 400,000 gold away. It's sad you didn't awaken, babe. You would have been awesome. You probably would have been a healer with your kind soul. I'm so lucky I married someone as amazing as you, Hisashi. as suddenly well, I don't care, Hisashi, as long as you come home and excuse me and I get to be with my husband. As we'd suddenly skip to a dark, depressing, a sad aura filling the air. As a room clad with black. To seize Inko Midoriya standing over a casket with tears filling her eyes as she looks down to see, looking down at her dead husband's casket, holding her stomach tightly as she sat there crying. Injustice. Why? Why, God? Why would you take him from me? Why? I told him he should have quit being a hunter, but no, he didn't listen. Instead, he insisted he had to save them, didn't he? He just had to save them, Hisashi. No. As she sat there crying, a blonde-haired woman would walk up to her, putting her hand on her shoulder. Inko, I'm so sorry about Hisashi's passing. If I had been a couple minutes faster, I could have saved him. Yeah, and you knew that, didn't you? Inko would say, looking up at... What the fuck is Bakugo's mother's name? Misaki? You knew that, didn't you? Inko would snap her head up, looking at Misaki. Mitsuki, shut up. You knew that you could have saved him with your quirk. You were both A rank. You could have A grade sorcerer fighters, and you could have done something. You all could have done something. Instead, you ran while my husband gave his life fighting in that dungeon to protect yours. It should have been you in that dungeon instead of him. You all don't deserve to be here. As Iko would stand, running out, crying. As the camera would pan off to see her in her room, tears pouring from her eyes like a flowing river. Hisashi, what am I gonna do without you? Yeah! As suddenly, Inko would just cry herself to sleep in the bed. As days would go by, as she wouldn't leave her house. She wouldn't go to work. She just stayed home, crying, crying, and crying. Until one day, while in her kitchen, her water broke. As she ran, she'd call an ambulance. As she'd get into her car, she'd drive to the hospital as fast as she could manage, arriving there just in time as doctors run out quickly as they'd rush her inside on a stretcher. As hours would go by, as we jump to a baby being born. He's beautiful, Inko would say, on the verge of passing, going unconscious, as the doctor handed her newborn baby. And what would you like to name him, ma'am? Izuku. Hisashi. Midoriya. As suddenly, the world would go black, as Izuku would vanish from his mother's arms, as though devoured by his shadow. He would appear inside of a dungeon, inside of a throne room with a dozen statues running across the circular room, as a ginormous titanous statue sat looking down on the boy, a emotionless expression. As the boy sat in the middle on a pedestal, as suddenly the room would go dark, the flares extinguishing themselves, as a blue flame would burst, coating the center, as suddenly a cloaked figure would walk from the shadows, placing his hand on Izuku's chest. And now, I choose my heir. Rise, boy. Become the monarch that I could not. As suddenly all the shadows would converge onto Izuku's baby, on Izuku, going into his shadow as the man steps back, putting his palm out. I give thou 2 gifts. As suddenly a soldier clad in armor would rise from the shadows behind the man. One deemed worthy, this shadow shall protect you. This shadow will be your caretaker, your closest ally, your closest friend. When the time is right, he will awaken to his master's call. And the second gift I bestow upon you, boy, is a gift for thyself. As a dark blue, but also bright cyan or flame-like energy would surround Izuku as he cried, going silent. As the energy would disperse, his eyes would stop glowing. As suddenly he'd reappear in his mother's arms. As though time were stopped, it would resume once more. But that's where I'm going to leave off part 0 to what if Deku was a Shadow Monarch. Have a good day, Zero Squad. And I am back.